Welcome to Horror Franchise Wednesday. I'm Happy Camper Mr. Hat, and today we will be discussing Sleepaway Camp 2 Unhappy Campers, which came out in 1988 and was directed by Michael A. Simpson, who previously worked on Funland in 1987, a movie that I recommend because it's pretty hilarious. And this was written by Fritz Gordon, who went on to write Sleepaway Camp 3 and nothing else that I read. This movie takes place 5 years after the events of Part 1, and Angela has landed herself a position as a counselor at Camp Rolling Hills, about 60 miles away from Camp Arawak, and starts bumping off all the bad campers one by one. So let's jump into the positives for Sleepaway Camp 2. First thing I want to talk about is the cast change here. A lot of people might not like it. I usually prefer there to be a good cast continuity, bring back actors to play the same characters, but in this case, I really like what Pamela Springsteen brought to the role of Angela. I love her humor, the way she delivers some of her lines. I just think she did a great job as Angela. I like that Angela's character talks more now, and she's got a twisted sense of humor. She's got some one-liners. She's basically like Freddy Krueger at this point. And I love that Angela Baker has become like a legend, a story that people tell around a campfire. And I like that this movie doesn't really take itself seriously. It has a lot of humor in it. The first one was trying to be suspenseful and, scary, but it was just unintentionally funny. This one's trying to be funny, and it succeeds some. There's some bad jokes in here that don't land, but I like that this one's more like self-aware. It's meta. There's Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees homages. I like that this has a huge body count. I think she kills almost everyone at this camp, and it has a lot of gratuitous nudity, just tit shot after tit shot. There's a character who's very promiscuous and just walks around without her top. I enjoy the campground atmosphere of this movie, just like Part 1. I don't think it's as strong, though. It looks like it was clearly shot at a camp that was closed down. The pool's all green, and the grass is dead, and it just looks run down. I love TC's character, and I think the actor playing TC is probably the best actor in the movie. And TC stands for Tom Cruise. All the characters in this movie were named after Brat Pack actors. And I love the story continuity that they acknowledge Part 1. Like I said, everything that happened in Part 1 has made Angela kind of a legend. And they have characters in this movie that are related to other characters in Part 1. And this movie's signature kill to me is one of the grossest kills of all time, and I absolutely love it. Getting into some dislikes and nitpicks is, first up, there's some unnecessary POV in the movie. Like, we know who the killer is. It's not a whodunit. So why is there like 3 or 4 POV shots in the movie as if we don't know who the killer is? This movie does suffer from its low budget in some areas. It's a very small budget. I think it might even be smaller than Part 1. And where it suffers because of that is in some of the effects. I feel like the makeup effects are pretty cheap looking, and even the sound design was pretty terrible in a couple of moments. I'm not sure if it was done terribly on purpose to be funny, because it kind of was in one moment. It was just so like over the top. And the soundtrack, the score of this film, I don't like it. It's not like Part 1's at all. Part 1 was like loud, in your face, just over the top. And this one, it's almost non-existent in moments where it should be playing, like when people are getting killed or stabbed. There should be like a stinger, some sound there, but there's like nothing. It's just dead air. So there's like missing music in spots, and then the music that does play during like the final chase, I'm not a fan of that. And the final chase itself, I'm not a fan of. I don't think this chase at the end is all that exciting. I wish it would have been a little bit longer and just more of a fight there and less off-camera kills. There's a lot of off-camera kills in this movie. It has a huge body count, like I said, but you don't see every single one of them. And when you do see some of the kills, the effects aren't really all that great. And last complaint is that there's quite a few jokes and one-liners in this movie that just don't land and were kind of cringy. So final thoughts, this is a change in tone, tongue-in-cheek sequel that, just like the original, isn't a very well-made movie, but there's a charm to it and a high rewatchability and entertainment value that keeps me wanting to keep coming back to Camp Rolling Hills for more. So when it comes to Sleepaway Camp 2 Unhappy Campers, I love this movie despite its flaws, so I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5. Alright, spoiler discussion. So just like Kevin Williamson's Scream, this movie opens with a scream. I wonder if that's where Kevin got his influence, was Sleepaway Camp 2. And so we start with a campfire story, and what better way to start a slasher movie than around a campfire telling scary stories? Like, right off the bat, I'm in. And so Phoebe is being very specific, recapping the events of part one. She basically spells it all out and tells you how everyone died in part one also, not just the twist. And then at the very end, she just quickly goes, and 30 other people died, the end. Like, 30 people? I don't think 30 people died at Camp Arawak. I didn't count, but it was not 30. I think it was maybe around 10 or so because of like the 5 kids she hacked up. It was not 30. We're introduced to Sean Whitmore, and we find out that his dad was the officer with the fake mustache who arrested Angela in part one. So I liked that connection to the original here. So not even 5 minutes into the movie, we get our first kill with Phoebe, who says, screw you, Angela, and runs off into the woods. And I love how brightly lit this forest is. And she's like, I can't see a thing. I'm lost. But meanwhile, Angela seems to know her way around these woods and can see perfectly fine. Walks up right behind her and hits her in the head with a fire log in her left temple. And then she grabs her right side of her head as if that's where she got hit. And all the blood's gushing out of her temple, and she falls to the ground, and then her tongue's already sticking out when she hits the ground. And then Angela just reaches down and cuts her tongue out for talking back earlier. Almost instantly, you can tell that this camp was just some closed down camp that they went to. You can see the pool, and it's very dirty and green. And then when we cut to the rec hall, the cafeteria, they have prison quality food. This food looks nasty. They have these rules written on a cardboard sign. They spared no expense here at Camp Rolling Hills. And there's this really corny moment between Sean and Molly where he asks Molly, do you do drugs? And then she's like, no. And he's like, good girl. So Angela is awarded Counselor of the Week after kicking Phoebe out. And I wonder how long this camp has been open for the season. Is this the first week? Or, they're entering their second week? How long has it been since she's been working there? I find it very hard to believe that these kids have been acting nice and not naughty for many weeks, and now all of a sudden they're all starting to misbehave, and she's starting to now pick them off one by one. These kids would have been killed week 1. Then Angela sings the Happy Camper song, and you would think Pamela Springsteen, being Bruce Springsteen's sister, that she would be a little bit better at singing and playing guitar. I'm not convinced she's actually playing that guitar. We then cut to the disgusting green pool, where Allie is using some reverse psychology. She tells Rob, don't you even think about pushing me into that pool, after she takes her bra off and she's only wearing a white t-shirt. And she's doing all this just to get Sean's attention, and Sean doesn't want anything to do with her because he knows that she's just a bad girl. And Molly's a good girl. She doesn't do drugs. So 2 movies in a row, we got a jealousy love triangle thing going on. We see the Shote sisters, or as Allie calls them, the Shit sisters, in the woods, drinking out of a bottle of booze. I'm not sure where they got that. Would they even keep liquor somewhere at this camp? For what purpose? Is Uncle John a closeted alcoholic, and he's got some secret stash somewhere that they're stealing from? How did they sneak this booze into the camp? Angela, of course, catches them doing this naughty act and rewriting her favorite Happy Camper song to make it much more vulgar. And then it like cuts to the next morning. Like this was already daytime. Then it hard cuts to like the next day. It's like early morning, and they're still out in the woods, like shit faced, and they're like drunk, passed out. Like it's early morning, and they're already that drunk. So then the Shoat sisters are killed, and I love that when the one sister wakes up, she does like a sit up, and then she's like face to face with her skeleton sister, just a black skeleton that's been completely fried. All the skin is just melted off. And then she has like a Nancy Reagan moment. Pamela's like, say no to drugs. And then she's screaming bloody murder for like a whole minute, it feels. Like she's just screaming and screaming in pain, on fire. And I guess they're just so far away from camp that no one can hear these screams. Then we cut to the worst actress in this movie, some like 13-year-old girl who for some reason is screaming when the scene starts. We just see paint that looks like blood and she's screaming. And then she's like, I hate this place. I want to go home. It's like the worst performance ever I've seen from a kid in a movie. It's terrible. She must be like the director's daughter. But why was she screaming? Because she accidentally knocked paint over? Or was it even an accident? Did she purposely do it? Like, fuck this place. I want to go home. Then we get kind of a funny transition where you think one thing's going to happen, but it doesn't. At this point, they've already established that every time a kid's acting naughty, she kills them. And she's like, I want to go home. And she's like, I can arrange that. And you think she's going to kill her. But it hard cuts to her putting her into her mother's car and sending her on her way. I found it kind of strange that Uncle John was only displeased when he found out that she sent the Shoat sisters home, but didn't care when she sent Phoebe home without his permission. He's like, oh, you don't just send people home without my permission. But when she sent Phoebe home, he was like, okay, yeah, you did what you had to do. Sean, for some reason, thinks it's okay for his buddies to go break into the girls' cabin and start stealing their panties and harassing them. He's like, they're not doing anything wrong. I beg to differ. Then the girls go to get payback by stealing the jock straps, and TC almost does like a Matthew McConaughey impression. He's like, all right, and then he gets hit in the face with like a jockstrap. And I love his attitude here. He's like, all right, just wake me up when it's over. So Mare flashes her tits, and then Angela goes to send her home without Uncle John's permission, and is actually giving her a chance, though, to stay. So Angela's not like just murdering these people instantly. She's giving them opportunities to redeem themselves, and then she'll let them live. She's not killing everybody. She sent that one girl home, and she's giving Mare an opportunity to stay there and stay alive. And all she has to do is say, I'm sorry for flashing my tits at the guys, and she just won't for some reason. And there's a funny one-liner here where she's reaching the back seat for a weapon, and Mare's like, oh, what are you going to do, get a gun? And then she's like, no, a drill. And then it starts drilling her skull, and the blood spray is coming from like the wrong angle, which really just undercuts the kill for me. Like, it was a nice setup. I liked the joke, and then the effect just kind of ruined it for me. Then we get like the one scene that just does not need to be in the movie. In my opinion, at least, it's just filler and nothing but bad jokes. It's Allie and Rob just sitting next to each other on like a picnic table, and they're just improvising, telling really bad jokes that just don't land. It's only like a 15-20 second scene. It's not that long, but it's like, what's the point? I like that Angela brings up her Aunt Martha and the fact that she used to be a shy girl in part one. It's just a nice little, again, a connection to part one, and it just shows that the writer of this movie actually took the time out to watch part one to write this sequel. And I like that she's telling the truth, but it's so crazy that no one believes her when they're playing that one game where you put your hand in like a jar of food and you're blindfolded and you have to guess what it is. And she's like, it's dead teenager brains. And they're like, no, really, what is it? And she's like, it's dead teenager brains. And that's what it really is. But of course, they don't believe her. Judd and Anthony are like 10, 15 feet away from Angela, and they're talking very out loud about their secret prank that they're going to pull later that night on Angela. She can clearly hear them. And the guy's just like, man, Angela's gonna shit her pants when she sees what we have planned for her tonight. It's like, yeah, now she knows all about it. We get a foreshadowing line of dialogue from What's-Her-Face about being strangled to death, and then Allie turns the radio station over to a different station after What's-Her-Face asks her, hey, can you turn that up? And she changes the station and then starts like ROTFL. She's rolling on the floor laughing her ass off like it was so hilarious what she just did. Like it was the best prank ever. It was so not funny. Somehow this guy managed to lose his Freddy glove. How is that possible? It was just lazy writing. Like, how can we get the glove off of him without him knowing? Like, he walked out there with the makeup on, the hat, the glove already on his hand, and then at some point when he was walking out of there, the glove fell off his hand, and then didn't realize it for a while. Like, oh shit, it fell off my hand as I was walking. Whoops, better retrace my steps. Like, how do you lose a glove? Angela somehow finds it, and then slits his throat, so I guess those were real. And this sounds like the most painful throat slit ever. This guy is screaming in agony for like 15 seconds. It's the longest on-screen throat slit I've ever seen in the slasher. So then his friend, who is dressed up like Jason, wearing the mask that's on the poster for part 5 of Friday the 13th, is looking for his friend and gets killed by Angela with a chainsaw. And we get this horrible one-liner where she says, sorry, once I start a task, I must complete it, or something like that. It was just a really bad one-liner. Like, oh, I started something, now I have to finish it. It's not even funny. And I'm confused whether her face is actually some other victim's face from earlier. Is she wearing someone's actual face, or is that just a mask that she made? A couple minutes later, not too long after she kills What's-His-Face with the hockey mask, she goes to the campfire with Allie and Molly, and they take that face off of her like it's just a mask. They don't look at it and panic like, holy shit, that's so-and-so's face. But they just take it off like it's a mask. And the way it hits the ground when they throw it, it seems like it's just a mask. But then, much later in the movie, when we see all these bodies everywhere, there's a victim in a sleeping bag who I don't recognize, and they're just missing their face. So is it someone's face? If so, how did Allie and Molly not realize that that was actual skin on Angela's face? It would make more sense if it wasn't someone's face and it was just some mask that she made. Then we get some comically rough foreplay in the bathroom. Allie is making out with, I believe, Rob, and they're just really throwing themselves around this bathroom. There's candles lit everywhere next to like toilet paper. Seems like a fire hazard. And then when the guy goes to like, go down on her, as soon as he gets towards her crotch, he goes, oh wow, as if he's seen a vagina for the first time. I do love this bit where Angela is outside the bathroom. She can hear them about to have sex in there, and she's trying to start that chainsaw up again, but it won't start, so she just gives up. Like, was she really gonna kill them right then and there with that chainsaw? There's a funny little moment where a fly interrupts a take. Allie is in the middle of her conversation with Molly, and at some point a fly is like hitting her in the face and she has to swat it, and they threw in like sound design to make the fly sound really loud. And it's kind of funny that it's foreshadowing her death later when she's in the porta potty and you can just hear all the flies buzzing around her. Then after Allie fucks Rob, she goes to try to have sex again with Sean, but it's all a trick, and she gets stabbed by Angela and then taken to a porta potty nearby and gets her head dunked into the hole, and you can hear her gargling, like she's gurgling on shit. It's disgusting. And there's leashes on her face. You can just hear all the flies buzzing, and she's like pushing her down with a stick. It's one of the grossest kills of all time. This is the worst way to go. I like to think that Angela has been preparing this death for her for a while now, taking shit after shit for the past couple of weeks. Like, one of these days, I'm gonna dunk that bitch's head in here. Rob should go to Las Vegas because he's obviously a lucky gambler. He has dealt 4 aces and a jack. How is that even possible? Then we get another pretty funny kill where What's-Her-Face is just going on and on and on. And she never gets to the point. By the end of the scene, she just gets strangled with a guitar string. So Angela ruined her guitar. She can't play the Happy Camper song no more. One thing I questioned this time was after she killed What's-Her-Face with the guitar string, she just leaves her body on the ground and then goes to leave the cabin, but then she gets a bucket of water dumped on her from Charlie and Emilio, and then has to go back inside to then start getting rid of the body. Like, why was she leaving the cabin in the first place? She should have been trying to get rid of the body before she ever stepped foot outside. And it's not very bright of these kids to be pulling this prank on Angela, a counselor who they know has been sending kids home a lot lately, and they're already in trouble with her because they took a photo of her in her bra. So as she's trying to get rid of this girl's body, the tattletale lady walks in and catches her in the act, and then she says right before she's about to get stabbed, she's like, "Wait, I didn't do anything," as if she knows that Angela only kills kids that do something naughty. Like, how does she know that? She's like, "Wait, no, I thought you only killed kids who..." We get like this Halloween homage kill with the knife going up in the air, and I love the one-liner here, "You're gonna tell," because Angela has to justify why she's killing her. She's like, "You're gonna tell, that's why I'm killing you." She has to have a reason. Then we get this blue-filtered dream sequence that plays in slow-mo at some points, and it's all just filler, really, to extend the running time. They needed the movie to be like 80 minutes, and they were a couple minutes short. But I still like the scene. It shows that Angela isn't so cold-hearted, like she's enjoying what she's doing. She's just doing what she believes is right. Like, to her, what she's doing is justified. She believes that she has to kill these kids for being naughty campers. But it's obviously having a negative effect on her. She's having nightmares about her actions. So then Angela is fired because at this point she's sent her entire cabin of girls home except for Molly, and now Uncle John has a completely different accent. For the first half of the movie, he sounded like a New Yorker. Now he sounds like some dude from the South. So Angela goes to this cabin that's abandoned. It's a mile away from the camp. And Sean and Molly go there to comfort her. And Angela just admits that she's a murderer. She talks about Kenny in part 1, and she's like, "I killed him." So now she's just letting it all out there. But it's weird that right after that, she's telling Sean not to go inside the cabin of dead bodies, like she doesn't want to be caught, even though she just admitted that she's a murderer. So which is it? Do you want to be busted now and just let it all out and start killing everyone? Like, I've been fired, fuck it, I'm going to tell the truth and now murder everybody? Or do you still want to keep it all a secret? And she had so much time to tell Sean not to go inside that cabin. She heard him right behind her saying, "Hey, the door's not locked." And then like 5 seconds later, she turns around and is like, "Oh wait, no, don't go in there." And I do like this element of the story. It's very like Friday the 13th part 2 with Jason's shack, storing all the dead bodies there. She's got all these corpses just lined up against the wall. And one of them has a face missing, and I think that might be the face that she was wearing earlier. And one of them has like half their head melted. I'm not sure who the hell that's supposed to be. It almost seems like it's supposed to be TC who's going to die like a minute later. TC ends up getting his own battery acid thrown into his face, and I have to wonder if that would even be fatal. We find out that Angela had all kinds of therapy, shock therapy, and got recommendations. I wonder if she's even telling the truth. Like, who the hell would recommend her to be a counselor at a camp knowing her history? Then she chops off Sean's head, and this is a moment of really bad sound design. It's just really cartoony. I do love that she puts Sean's head in the TV, and it's a pretty decent fake head. Doesn't look too fake. And I love the one-liner like, hey, look, Sean's on TV. Look who's on TV. She ties up Molly for some reason instead of just killing her, but she doesn't do a very good job of tying her up. It looked like she could just easily bite it off. It was not a very good tie job on Angela's part. You would think she would know how to do that better. But why even keep her, and how long was she going to keep her? How long was she going to just feed her in that cabin of death? So like most slasher movies, we get a final chase with our final girl, and it's not very exciting. It's not very well directed. It seems like Angela is just teleporting. She seems to know her way around the woods pretty good, knows how to take shortcuts, and somehow gets in front of Molly, who had a major head start, gets in front of her twice. Like, how is this even possible? So after Molly falls and hits her head and Angela thinks that she's dead, we cut to camp at night, and there's just one survivor left who is unaware that all other like 30 campers and counselors are dead. She just walks into the main office of the place and sees Uncle John dead with his hand severed off, and Rob, who was fucking Allie earlier, he's hung in the corner, and these two kids are dead, propped up against the window. I love that Angela took time out to prop up Charlie and Emilio up in front of the windows, being peeping toms even in their death. So, like, that's just pretty funny. And yeah, then she just gets simply stabbed in the guts. It's a lame kill. And then she hitches a ride with this hick lady who's just going on about how she's too dumb to drink and too fat to fuck. And then Angela stabs her. Then poor Molly wakes up only to just die. Like, we already thought she was dead. Now she's alive. And we're thinking in the moment, like, oh shit, she's alive. Maybe she has a chance. Oh no, she hitchhikes a ride with Angela. And we get this cheesy, like, zoom in, freeze frame right before the credits roll. And I like that at the very end of the credits, it actually says, thank you for reading the credits. And it's the slowest credits also. Like, they purposely made it go up so slow to make the movie like 80 minutes long. So that's the end of Sleepaway Camp 2. Unhappy Campers, what are your thoughts on this sequel? Do you like it more than the original? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's all an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.